good evening from London, and good day, whatever time of day it is, wherever you may be watching this. It's my very great pleasure to introduce as our final keynote speaker for WAF 2021, Mark Kohler, who is an architect, but he takes a very broad view of what architecture is, and indeed part of what he's going to talk about today is how architects can adopt new strategies and new working methods to prevent being marginalized, which is, I think, one of the most common complaints we hear from architects. Mark set out Mark Kohler Architects initially in Amsterdam, where he began to transform the whole nature of the housing market. He's recently moved to Lisbon and will no doubt be doing the same there, and is also working in London on what was the iconic Thamesmead housing district or new town, really, satellite to London, where Stanley Kubrick filmed part of Clockwork Orange. Anyway, Mark is going to talk to us, and then he and I will hopefully have time for a quick conversation before the announcements of the winners. Mark.
Thank you very much, Jeremy and everyone here. It's a big honor to be here and to give you an update on where we are standing with our firm MKA Architects. 2 years ago, I gave a keynote at the same hour in Amsterdam, WAF Amsterdam, about open building and the power of architecture to build communities and to build systems that can be adopted by people to take their lives into their own hands, their living environments, their neighborhoods. And a lot of things have happened, not only Corona, but also in terms of technological development. Our company has engaged in prefabrication and timber construction, and we're now pioneering one of the biggest mid-rental housing concepts in the Netherlands, called Mama Pioneers, which is built completely in timber and it's completely modular. And at the same time, we are still building superlofts. And we moved to Lisbon to start a new company here. And I want to show you something of that as well. But before we do, I would like to say why we are doing all this. And let's see if my slide is working. To the next slide, please. Yep. I think that we as architects have completely been marginalized. I mean, unless you're a star architect, but that doesn't count for most of us, and certainly not for us as well. So how do you have influence and real serious impact, social impact, environmental impact, when you're not a star architect? We are often marginalized and become makeup artists. Real estate developers have an enormous power in our industry, and they actually make us create buildings that are extremely attractive to sell, but not always very high quality in terms of sustainable strategy, and also not in terms of social strategy. I think architecture in the neoliberal, hyper-capitalist age is certainly threatened in existence. And well, with the emergence of algorithms that are taking over a lot of tasks from the architect in the next decade, this is even more so. So architects, if we don't want to prevent us from maintaining or becoming ultimate makeup artists, creating only the surface of buildings, facades of buildings around completely engineered and defined building concepts, real estate concepts, well, then we need to create vertical integration. We need to learn about how finance in our industry works, how real estate development works, how branding and marketing work. But on the other side, also downwards towards the construction and manufacturing side, we have to really create partners, find partners, and engage on the manufacturing and building side, so that we maintain the entity within the building industry that has an overview of how all these specialities are being related. and how they can be connected to create added value, to find that magic moment that we create something new that's really valuable and not just vanilla architecture. So, when we analyze the traditional architectural commission, we realize that architecture is really not important in the whole sequence of services. And when you look at this scheme, you see that real estate development have an important role, and the architect only comes, let's say, halfway or towards the end of the real estate development process to the table, and then it's hired to create a beautiful image and a building permit, so that the project can be tendered to a construction company that will then engineer and construct it, and to an investor who will buy and operate it. Then there will be a branding, styling agent and a real estate agent to sell whatever has been created that comes afterwards. And this magic moment that you see here in the middle is the moment that is basically the moment that a lot of money is being made. So basically, real estate developer creates value through architecture, pays architects extremely badly, and then gets a building permit, takes out all risks, restructures the risks all out of the project, and then sells the project to an investor. And this is an immense amount of money that's being made on that moment. And the result is that architecture is being squeezed in that phase, sustainability is being squeezed, and all risks are being avoided. Meaning, any innovation, real innovation, is being taken out of the loop. And if we want to fight climate change, we need to. I mean, it's absolutely clear that we have to do it, and not only architects, but also architects throughout all the scope. We need to have more impact and more power, and we can't do it in this scheme because developers don't dare to take real risk. The architecture is nice, novelty, design is novelty, it will sell good, but real innovation is very risky, right? So how do we break this system into something different that really works for a climate positive approach and a post-corona society and community of architecture and real estate? We believe that vertical integration is the best and more successful approach. By engaging the architect with engineering, such as many of us already do, so we control the whole scope of architectural design and architectural engineering, pre-construction and construction management. We can do that. But what we often don't do is, when you look upwards, community building and branding, brand activation, real estate development and finance, and concept and brand ideation. And this is where the real magic happens, right? This is where developers and clients, owners of buildings and investors and property managers decide what the building is going to be. It's in the program of the building, it's in the budget of the building, the financial architecture. How do we engage with that? On the other side, downwards, it's about interior design, experience design, we call that. Like, it's not only interiors, but it's also website, the app, the music playing in the lobby, the programming of services in a shared living or co-living concept, and at the same time, construction, manufacturing, and the operational concept. All these things, the architect is not part of at the moment, but I think we should, and we can be if we are interested in those topics, and we make friends in those sectors, and we create bonds with those and coalitions with people that are influential in those sectors, and through creating long-term relationships with people that share the same goal, sustainable, climate positive cities of the future, we can break this hit and run development crisis. Okay, I would like to show a little movie animation video about our firm to show what we're doing. Superlofts and our new project, Mama Pioneers, Poppies and Robinwood. Okay, there is music with this, but if it doesn't pop up, I'll be it. Okay, thank you. So, we really want to bring people together in the city of tomorrow by igniting and achieving profound and positive social and environmental impact. And to create real impact, you need to have influence and power and control over your own discipline. And this discipline has marginalized and has specialized into many, many different services. And it's really the challenge to connect all those services back into an integrated discipline. And we try to do that in an original way. We try to do it by creating inspiring brands. So I've created a branding agency. We do it by creating innovative prototypes that can inspire different users and stakeholders and investors and developers, so they take the prototype and develop them further. And we do it by engaging communities. So we really research how we can create a direct relationship, one-on-one, between business and consumer. And I'm going to show you some examples of that later. But now, just to give you an insight in how our office is organized, quite a compact company. We have a management team, and then we have 3 thematic tribes. So the first is complex urban projects. Ecotopia is the second one, and the third is modular timber, collective housing. So these tribes, they are constantly evolving know-how and building a database of examples, and also a knowledge base of how to solve things within this kind of specific technologies and work fields. And we've created a new one like half a year ago, which is Tribe 4. MKA R&D, which is our Lisbon office. We are setting up shop here, and we're building a department especially focused on concept development, real estate development, branding, interior design, and crossovers with all kind of technologies such as community building, apps, app development. And Lisbon is the place to be because it is California and, let's say, Silicon Valley of Europe. It combines surfing with always good weather, super nice people, and a large expat community, mostly tech company based. And it's just booming, and the spirit here is just amazing. So when you go to hairdresser, which I don't need to go, but many people tell me the hairdresser is the place where you meet the coolest people from different kind of tech companies, just hanging out, sharing ideas. You have the same when you go to a bar. There's a huge expat community here, and it's just amazing how easy it is to build networks and relationships with other companies. So one of the projects that we have developed here with our branding company is Nomalides, which is a eco village and hotel hospitality and residential concept combined in Melides, which is a village 1 hour and 15 minutes under Lisbon. And would like to show you a little promo that we made and then the design.
We were nomads. We gathered in tribes. We started to speak and listen. We left the grottos, built shelters. Fire and earth became our tools. Then we became artists and scientists. We invented currency. We made machines to build cities, produce stuff and travel. We communicated, calculated, and crashed. Technology opened new doors. Then we started to ask questions. We were no longer clerks. We became bold self-starters. We brought ourselves up again to the next step on Maslow's stairs. We were nomads again. Now we're here. We breathe the breeze spiced by the pines. Here's our home to return to over and over again. Here, our minds open to listen, speak, and listen more. Here's food for the body, for the soul, and for thoughts to share. Here we unite where nature, art, and community blend.
So Nomalides is a very innovative thing. It's a hybrid between hotel, eco village, and private houses. We are making it also one of the first completely online concepts with self check-in, trust bars where you can scan your own products that you take from the bar without having people serving you. So it's going to be innovative in many, many ways. And the cool thing of Lisbon is that these things come kind of like natural, and you meet people that help you work out all these technologies in a natural way. Financially, we've already learned how to develop real estate in the Netherlands with the Superlofts projects, and we are applying the same kind of community-based approach here. So building up an online community, then going through a selection procedure of finding the right people and invite them to buy these properties and join us in the exploration of it. Of course, we don't want just only a Dutch community in Portugal, so it's going to be an international community of artists, designers, makers, architects, entrepreneurs, tech people, the right mix. And it's very important to find that right mix. And there's many tools to develop the right community mix today. And this is something I'll show you later when we talk about Mama Pioneers. So, well, this shows you some images of the project, and we hope to start building this at the end of this year. So it's completely self-initiated, self-financed, with the help of the future inhabitants. So this approach shows us this circle of iterational design, ideation, real estate development, community building, architectural design, experience design, modular manufacturing, property management, and then start all over again. We do this in every phase of the design: sketch design, preliminary design, design development phase, design documentation, etc. And this is kind of unique for architects because we normally only do a little part of this, let's say, vertical chain. And I think it's important to have a more integrated approach. Well, we did that also with Mama Pioneers, which is quite a larger project. You saw this in the video. It's the Robin Wood project, completely timber housing blocks that we are building in the Netherlands. And we start to explore this by really defining personas. Who do we want to foresee living in our projects? It's kind of like a storytelling technique. You know, it's about also kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because if you put here average families, then the building will become a building for average families. But if you try to be more unique and tailor for niche markets, and invent stories that belong to a more diverse image of society, then the building also will become more diverse, and the brand as well. So this is how we start. Like, let's brainstorm about who our ideal community would be for this location in the city, and who really needs this location. So in our project, there is a lot of attention to inclusivity, to people working in healthcare, into education, in policing, all these kind of middle income jobs that are now marginalized in society, people that are really fighting to find an apartment in the city, but are very crucial for the city to survive. And Mama Pioneers wants to give those people a space and also a voice in these projects. So then we do this by defining shared living values. For Mama Pioneers, it's what we defined this value of free-minded people. Very abstract, but it links a lot of interesting groups and values together. So it's creative, adventurous, responsible, open-minded, sharing, inclusive, and engaged. And this means that this can encompass returning seniors, people that have left their house in the suburbs, they want to come back to the city, modern couples, single parents, young entrepreneurs, digital nomads, first-time tenants, and empty nesters. So it's not a shared living concept focused on millennials, which we see all the time. No, this will be a really inclusive, free-minded family. Okay, so that means that we should really take ourselves outside of the domain of architecture and really think of experience design. So this means architecture is only a little bit of it. A large part of successful spaces is not depending on architecture, but on many other things, such as the branding of it, the brand activation, which is relating to digital marketing, the selection of the people living there, community building, programming of activities, and even, let's say, the music that's being played, and the perfumes that you smell when you arrive in a lobby, or the smell of the fresh bread in the coffee and in the local shop that we are creating. It's all about this total design experience. And then, of course, not designed in a top-down way, but with the future residents. So how do you build a community bottom up? Well, we start by visualizing kind of like potential moments for social engagement, that we call them touch points, community touch points. And then we develop them not only as architectural touch points, but also in terms of facilities and digital touch points for shared living. So it includes the app, website, the booking system, the places where you wash your laundry. It's also about, let's say, the service concept for deliveries. It's the concept for car rental, car sharing, shared dining space, shared barbecue spaces, shared gym. We are actually charging the whole building with all kind of facilities, and a very smart, let's say, community management system that allows us to manage all this without having like 10 people walking around to manage it. And there we use digital technologies. So this is a kind of promo PowerPoint we made recently for on our website to launch our Mama Pioneers concept. We are now working on a couple of sites. They're in development and some are in construction. And we found an investor that is backing us up in making this happen. The buildings are completely timber, prefabricated modular CLT buildings, and with a lot of shared spaces. And they always have a tiny forest, so kind of like an urban garden, an oasis within the building that provides cooling in summer, and also reduces sound loads. So it absorbs sound. It brings ecology into the buildings and it increases the ecological quality in the neighborhood. And then we extend that into eatable gardens, eatable forests, all kind of roof terraces and green concepts throughout the building, so that people engage as well in kind of maintaining all this green and gardening. And we have volunteer garden clubs, and we have outdoor yoga spaces, barbecue areas. So we really think of every square meter as a potential touch point. And although these buildings are quite high density, they have a lot of quality, and it's all about like precision in design and thinking of design as something holistic and not stopping at architecture. Here you see the modular prefab concepts. They are modular units. They come from a factory where everything is being integrated already, the interiors, and they're brought to site by truck. And then this reduces the construction time with like 80%. So we can build this whole building in, let's say, a small period, not having any stress for people living around, reducing the number of transportation movements to a construction site enormously, reducing CO2 loads. So our projects are climate positive, not only climate neutral, they go beyond that. They are actually producing more energy than they use, more electricity that they give back to the community. And because they're made of timber, they also store carbon. Their embodied carbon is immense. And the interiors are adaptable, following our open building principles. So every user can completely customize their home, not only on this micro level of moving shelves and so on, but also deciding whether they live in the front or the back of the unit, where do they put their bed. So we really developed this whole flexibility and adaptation system, also to connect different modules next to each other into a bigger module. And this will, we think, create a sense of ownership and belonging to people, because if they are really having a say about how they live, they don't have to rent the homes in a furnished way. They can also bring their own furniture, and they can decorate it in their own way. I think that's what people are looking for, the sense of kind of power over their own world and over their own living environment, but then made easy. You know, so we're offering all those elements, and people can just play with it, customize it, move it. And here you see like another version with a folding bed option. So the difference now is it can look back, go back from this traditional business as usual, the hit and run developer. I mean, I know this is like not nice to many of our developers, clients that actually do a fantastic job, but there's also a lot of real estate developers that are just hit and run developers, and they don't take architecture that serious. And maybe they're right, because we as architects also then don't take ourselves that serious anymore. we already have accepted we only do a little part of the work, and we've given loads of know-how to other disciplines, both to the engineering side as to the supervision side, as to the selling and ideation and real estate side of architecture. And if we're not careful, we will be kind of marginalized, especially in housing. So I'm not talking about the architects doing public buildings. I think that's something totally always the domain of the architect. But in housing, it will be a moment soon that we architects are not necessary anymore. So what we propose is this vertical integration model, long-term collaboration. And instead of one small group of people making a lot of money at some point in the middle, and also they're ending their responsibility over the project and selling the project to another group, we propose this model where there is a integrative and holistic approach, and where all parties share the part of the profit because they have a long-term relationship. All our partners that we work with, they know that they will be involved in the next project, and we're going to do many of them with the same group of preferred partners. So there's a real need to stay and stick together and to make an extra effort. And also, when I look at the real estate model of the Mama pioneers, the investors are also not there for a short-term hit-and-run goal. So they really have a long-term finance goal, and they know that real innovation takes time, and it needs some extra investments, both in time, attention, money at the moment, and that it will pay back at the end. Because if you invest now in being one of the forerunners in sustainable timber construction, you will be also one of the more successful companies in the next decade when that has become the norm. So our model summarizes ideation as a first step, then build a community, B2B and B2C, initiate test projects, develop prototype, build a platform, learn from spin-offs, and then scale up. Well, I'm going to go through a couple of reference projects. Now, I'm not going to go all the way till the end. Just another 10 minutes, and it would be really nice to have a talk with Jeremy about how he sees this transforming role of the architect. So ideation phase, step one, just some examples. All depends on the idea of ignite, something that sticks to your mind, inflame an emotion or situation. It is really about the power of a small but great idea. And for me, an example is, for instance, the Fairphone. It's a Dutch invention by a guy called Bas van Abel that studied at the Art Academy, the Design Academy in Eindhoven, and had this idea: why can we not make a phone that is completely modular, can be taken out, disassembled and reassembled, so that when a part is obsolete and broken, can be replaced easily. It's the opposite of the closed model that we see in most brands. And now, after 10 years, we see that this year Apple has launched a new iPhone, which actually has aspects of this, that elements can be removed or upgraded and independently. So that's basically the scale-up mode of this invention. But it all started with this little Dutch company in the Netherlands that started this phone, which is now becoming very, very, very successful. And it can have an immense impact on sustainability in terms of resources, batteries, metals, precious metals, etc. A small idea, large impact. And when you're looking for something like that as an architect, maybe the golden circle helps. It's a model by Simon Sinek. Just Google it on YouTube, where he defines the difference in branding between brands that ask the why question, the how, and the what question. And when the brands that ask the why question are the successful ones, like Apple. And the ones that ask the what and the how question, they are just delivering things. But people, they don't have a lasting and burning presence in people's minds. So very few people or companies can clearly articulate why they do what they do. Why, as in your purpose, cause, or belief. Why does your company exist? Why do you get out of bed every morning? And why should anyone care? Because people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And this is what we as architects don't really learn in the university. So we always, sell the space, the product, the building, but the technology, but not why. And the why question is maybe because we believe in a better world, a healthy world, a more inclusive world, but we need to sell those values. And that's how we get our partners and clients involved. Well, in Superlofts, the Ignite moment and the value that Superlofts engages with is freedom. And the Ignite moment was actually the moment that the city of Amsterdam decided to give plots that the city owned, to open them up for a public tender for anyone with a good idea to participate. Freedom, not top-down real estate development. Freedom, a system, an open system, allowing people to move and come with their own ideas. And this is how Superlofts moved, and we got a couple of those plots with our proposition. So it triggered us, and before that we never thought of Superlofts, but it was because of that. The other moment was the idea by John Habraken from 1968, the founder of the open building movement, a professor in Delft and MIT, who had this idea that buildings could become platforms, frameworks for living, for habitation, where the inhabitants would really have a say, where they could customize or create their own world, where they would be owner of their own space. And this image for me, this little sketch from 1968, does the thing. And on the right side, you see a real Superlofts building that we created in Amsterdam North, where somebody actually really put a caravan inside as a bedroom for his daughter in this space, because he could, because it's possible. And the second thing is very important is branding. As architects, I don't think we really often don't understand branding very well. But architecture and branding are very similar. And architecture is about manifesto, and branding with purpose is about a self-fulfilling prophecy. And architecture related or infused with branding can be a self-fulfilling prophecy. And this is what we need. We need to show what the future can be. The real future, with a little bit of help of investors, can be something different. And we do that with using all kind of marketing tools, where we talk to our inhabitants and we ask them to show why they're living there and
Ik vond het heel leuk om mijn eigen woning te ontwerpen, ook omdat het al heel lang een droom is. En dit concept gaf de mogelijkheid daartoe. Uiteindelijk hebben we een heel gewaagd ontwerp gekozen. Heel erg specifiek op onze woonwensen dan aangepast. En we hebben eigenlijk 3 torens.
Okay, so it could be a little bit cheesy, but on the other hand, this really helped us. We asked 7 couples to really talk about why they wanted to live there. And it really helped us to grow a community. And then this led to this publication in the Dutch Amsterdam newspaper, Het Parool, which then was picked up by the 8 o'clock news, which broadcasted 1 minute about our project as being a radical invention for the Dutch housing market in 2013. And then Vodafone, they picked it up. And they asked me, can you do one of our advertisements? Because we engage with innovative companies. And they came up with this video that was seen 1 million times in the Netherlands. And that really pushed Superlofts over the limit.
Met Superlofts maken we woningen die mensen helemaal zelf kunnen indelen. Met een klein team doen we projecten die normaal gesproken alleen de traditionele ontwikkelaars doen. We werken veel buiten de deur, daarom hebben we een virtuele telefooncentrale waardoor we nooit meer een telefoontje missen, of we nu op kantoor zijn of op locatie. Vaste lijnen kan ik bijvoorbeeld makkelijk doorschakelen naar mobiel. We zijn nu nog klein, maar groeien hard. Dus wil ik een systeem dat met ons mee kan groeien. Zonder dat ik gelijk hoef te investeren in dure telefooncentrales.
So this shows to me that we shouldn't be afraid to invest in marketing. Actually, it's a very important part of our job, and through marketing, branding, we can build real communities. So we got at some point 5,000 members in our Superlofts community that we grew online, and this video from Vodafone really helped. And with those 5,000 people, it was again easier to convince real estate developers to hire us as an architect, because we could bring 5,000 potential buyers to their project. So we do that through community building. And somebody that really inspires me is Jacob Collier, who managed with his art craft to build this amazing community just online. I mean, since he was 15. And this shows that now online technology allows us to really do this by ourselves. We don't need to hire an expensive branding or marketing company or consultant. It's really about having an authentic message, right? And I think the next generation of architects could really profit from these ideas. Well, besides the online, there's also the offline. So we have always organized all these kind of meetings with potential buyers or focus groups. This is our office, our old office in the
Wij zijn hier
center
bij
of
Mark
Amsterdam.
Keulen Architecten en wij hebben vandaag een workshop over de gevel met mede-opdrachtgevers. Wij zijn met
partner.
in december met mede-opdrachtgevers. En dat betekent dus dat wij nog niet helemaal een plan hebben, maar dat we een plan gaan ontwikkelen samen met de toekomstige bewoners, de mede-opdrachtgevers.
We gaan, heb ik begrepen, een gevel ontwerpen. Ik denk ook dat voor veel mensen de gevel heel bepalend is. Omdat
These kind of get-togethers are very important because people will, join us and see if they want to invest and buy one of the apartments, and they get to know each other and they form a sense of neighborhoodship or citizenship. How do you call it? Community building, just already 2 years before the buildings are actually constructed. And they also, let's say, really give their opinion about the design. So it gives us the opportunity to adapt it and to make it better and better and better. And creates a sense of ownership and belonging, and results in all kind of spin-offs of neighbors, groups, WhatsApp groups engaged in sustainability, public space, in the interior of the common spaces. So it's very beneficial because you kind of co-create the building with the inhabitants. And I really believe that this creates real social impact. And if you look at En Bloc, which is kind of one of our latest projects, you see that people are extremely happy, and sense of social cohesion is extreme. So our first project, Superlofts Houthaven, is all thanks to these 4 amazing people. They were one of the first inhabitants that were voted to become the board of our cooperative. We created a cooperative, and 25 members, they grew to 70 members, and they choose these people as the 4 board members, and they led us through all the decisions of the real estate development. So we advised them, but they made the decisions at the end, and they became the ambassadors that then brought the Superlofts came alive. And at the end, when the building opened, on the roof, we had this fantastic band playing. We turned all the stories of Superlofts in Super Living platform, so our website and also Instagram is showing all the stories of individual homeowners in 5 cities, 6 cities, where Superlofts have been built. It's an investment that you do as an architect, but we love it because it's really, the storytelling really makes it worth. Normally we don't see the results and we can't evaluate the results of our designs. And here you see how people are so creative, so in love with the fact that they can co-create their own house. They design the most amazing interiors. They have amazing kind of family situations that you would never expect. So you learn a lot from this. And then we also offer our design partners space to there, not to advertise it for free. So if there's a cool designer, architect, entrepreneur that is important in Superlofts, they get space on the website to tell their story. And this is how we build our community. And then I think to close my presentation, the last part, I would like to talk about the idea of a catalyst. So everything starts with taking risks, making something, daring to invest in innovation. And in Buiksloterham, we did it with this Superlofts project in the middle. And this is where it all started in Amsterdam North. But at this moment, we have projects in 5 locations in Amsterdam North. And so this shows that you become some kind of ambassador in a certain area. And we work always in these kind of industrial areas that then want to transform into lively city neighborhoods, living neighborhoods. So you also acquire a lot of know-how about an area. And this is then naturally results into also more projects. So that's a catalyst for sure. For Republica, we were inspired by De Chirico's paintings of this kind of in-between, surreal in-between space that is like really represents openness and publicness and kind of like an open future. And in Republica, we created this kind of tableau of buildings with nothing in between. So all the cars, garbage, infrastructure is placed underground in a parking garage, semi-submerged, and every building has one material concept that is circular. So we only use recycled materials, recycled bricks, recycled or circular concrete, timber, etc. And here you see that it's important to use BIM in order to control the complexity of this, using material passports from a duster and so on, in order to make sure that your circular ambitions are actually happening. And within the Superlofts Tower, we offer a lot of diversity of types that can be customized over time, and people can choose the kind of type that belongs to them. But the cool thing is when a project like this, which is not our own development, but we were then, let's say, asked by a real estate developer to bring in a Superlofts community, is that we also managed to defend the budget for real beautiful details. And they really take us now more serious than they would have done before. So I think it's important to bring this know-how from the Superlofts also to more commercial projects and also learn from these. So here we see the wooden project. It's completely timber. And then the concrete project that is with circular concrete and then with different textures in different floors. A lot of product research and material research. And this building will be made completely out of second-hand bricks from the streets of Amsterdam. So the project is 100% circular and commercial project with a commercial developer. So it shows that maybe there's also possibility to then use this kind of self-initiated projects to then apply to a more commercial setting and have a great result. Well, the next step would be to do a prototype, which is what we're working on now, Superlofts Hoorn. Unfortunately, my time is up, and I would like to show you more about this on our website, markkoelerarchitects.com or superlofts.co or mamapioneers.com. And thank you for your attention. would love to engage with you in further conversations about this. Jeremy, let's talk about this. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you raised some very important points, and I think in particular your warning that architects face being completely marginalized, particularly when dealing with housing, is very well made. And I think that you're absolutely right, that involves rethinking how architects position themselves in the whole development, construction, management, ownership, occupation cycle. Now, there is, though, I think, another side to this, which is what comes from the public sector, from the regulatory world, from the decisions made by the various layers of government. And I wonder if you can say, from your experience in working in the Netherlands, Portugal, and in the UK, whether there are messages you can give which would improve the way governance can interact with a more positive development process.
Yeah, well, that's a very good question, Jeremy. Thank you very much. Well, I noticed working in different countries that the Netherlands is quite unique in having faith and confidence in its community, in its citizens, and that we don't see that in other countries that much. So Amsterdam has so much faith and trust in its own community that it gives lots of land to citizens to self-develop, right? And in the UK, what we notice is that this is still really not the case. But then the interesting thing is that the developers that we are working with, which are Lend-Lease and Peabody Trust Housing Corporation, do have this confidence and really want to experiment in giving more space to future users to co-create their own neighborhood and also some of their buildings. So I think it will be key for these intermediate institutions like large developers that almost become institutions themselves with a public role and a long-term goal to take over this situation of this kind of role of the government. And I see that they are doing that. In Portugal,
I think sorry, say something
about
Portugal. Yeah.
In Portugal, we see another trend, which is Portugal is launching a whole new series of public tenders for social housing in the next couple of years, which are very, very interesting. It will give architects and young architects the opportunity to really make a difference. So also they are doing their part. And let's see which model wins. I know Belgium is doing this for a long time, called Open Oproep, Open Call. And we did 3 projects in Belgium. Without them, we would not have reached our position as a known architecture firm. We did a library, we did a community center and university building. And they're all open tenders that are given to young architects. Anyone can participate. In the Netherlands, in the public sector for public buildings, this is not the case. You need to have like 15 years of experience, turnover demands are like super high. So to do a school or whatever, you always would need to participate with an institutional architect, which we do, and we won the University of Amsterdam competition like that. But it would be good to look also at the Belgian model in terms of public buildings. So, but that's something else than housing.
Absolutely, but I think your point about Amsterdam having confidence in its citizens to give them land. The public sector in the UK owns an enormous amount of land, which it sits on. It doesn't do anything with. So I think that would be something that could be learned from the Netherlands. But another point strikes me, which is that the involvement of architects in mass housing, as opposed to single ground houses for rich people, is relatively short. It's not much more than 100, maybe 150 years when architects started to consider that housing for ordinary people to be something that they should engage with. And this was part of a collective response to the problems thrown up by industrialization and urbanization in the 19th century. Architects who were trying to position themselves as practitioners and as collectors of certain sorts of expertise, started to say, look, we don't just design very grand houses for rich people, we can design small houses because we understand construction and because we understand how people live. And there was examples of social housing from the 1850s in London, which were all about trying to embody certain sorts of, in quotes, middle-class values on poor people who couldn't possibly emulate a middle-class lifestyle. And that persisted for over 100 years, that the ideal way of life was a sort of middle-class nuclear family, and that affected a whole range of public housing projects in the UK, which made them not very responsive and not very flexible for different sorts of households and indeed different aging people who got older, whose families left. So it seems to me that there's an issue there, but my point, the question perhaps you could respond to, is that architects felt, or a lot of architects, certainly in the UK, believed that because they had been involved with social housing, they knew everything about housing, and that they were very reluctant to change because they thought that became the embedded belief within the architectural profession that was the right way things should be done. And it's very difficult to unpick that. And I wonder whether you have a reaction to that, and indeed whether you found resistance among fellow architects to what you're doing.
Interesting, very interesting question. Well, I think that I would maybe divert the question a little bit, because I think that the frozen character of social housing is mostly the result of housing corporations having extremely detailed briefs and programs of how a floor plan has to work, from the size of the bedroom and the distance between the bed and the wall towards the size and height of a window. So actually, social housing companies in the Netherlands are really part of the problem, because they're like much worse than commercial investors in specification of all fucking details. Like it's like unbelievable. So, and we work with them, and then we ask them, can it be a little bit more relaxed? Can we play with those rules? And they say no. So there's the main issue. I don't think it's the architects community that is the problem, but it's really about educating the institutions that faith, trust in their citizens will result into, not also citizens, but also their architects will result in a more diverse product that fits better with a diverse society.
Well, Mark, thank you very much for finishing early, but I'm afraid we've run out of time to talk about many, many more interesting points that will come up, but I'm sure people will feel inspired to look at your website and look at the work you do, and hopefully take some of that forward in your own work. Now, the reason we have to finish is because we are ready to have the announcements of the winners of the major project awards for landscape, interiors, future projects, and the building of the year. And that is just being prepared now. So I'm going to say thank you to Mark, and thank you to everyone for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this festival. And we will see you, hopefully, in Lisbon at this time next year. Goodbye.